Hey, it's Dan. Welcome back. You're watching iAllegedly. And I've got a good one for you today because banking crisis fears are back on the table. And hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. It's nice to take a day off. I took a day off, first one in over a year, guys. I took a day off. It was very nice, tan, rested, and ready. But let's talk about this. It was recently divulged that Wells Fargo Bank needed to borrow $200 billion to stay afloat last quarter. Now, this was reported in such a way that it caused a problem with Wells Fargo stock. Thursday, it dropped 6.5%, which was a huge drop in one day. But what it did was it brought the banking situation to the forefront. Now, it is not uncommon for banks to go out and borrow money for liquidity, if they have, excessive withdrawals, can't meet certain financial demands. Banks will go out and borrow money on an overnight basis. During COVID, we saw that banks did this, in huge ways repeatedly. And, it made sense because business wasn't being conducted in a normal manner during that time. But the problem with Wells Fargo is we've talked about Wells Fargo's problems for years. Now, is Wells Fargo going to go out of business? Who knows? Who knows? I am telling you this right now. I'm going to remind you of something I've said for 2 years now. You have to have multiple bank accounts in your life. You need to have cash on hand and a way to pay your bills without having the banks. If you have a problem with one bank, credit union, whatever, make sure you have another source, because I'm telling you, this is just kind of convenient timing when you get a crypto law for a stable coin. Whether you believe in crypto or not, they're clearly doing something around us to circumvent the system and to make it so that, hey, if there's a problem, you're going to have a digital currency. I think the digital currency is a nightmare. I think that we're going to be taken advantage of in such a huge way that you're going to have politics be, completely used against us in every way, shape, and form, from making sure you don't drive too much, making sure that you don't, work against anybody that's in charge. And again, administrations change, guys. Things change. And when that happens, well, you're going to have people that don't like, you for your beliefs. And this country is divided 50%, 50%. We all know that. So let me know what you think. Originally, this was told to me by a friend, and I researched it. But yeah, this happened. So is this the beginning of a banking problem? I personally think so. I think that you're going to have more bank mergers right now. You're going to have this be presented to us like it's a good thing. Every merger is basically survival. And the lie that we're told lately is that, this is going to build a bigger, better company. We saw Kroger and Albertsons, that debacle that fell apart. We saw, JetBlue and Spirit, how that thing fell apart. That wasn't fair because the government, basically ruined that. The best thing that could have happened to Spirit would be hooking up with JetBlue. But again, what's going to happen with the banking industry? I think that you haven't seen anything yet when it comes to this stuff. Pepco, the power company, they were down. Have you guys noticed this? In that you can sit there and say, we've had such extreme heat. No, we haven't. Okay, on this overcast July morning, we haven't had the extreme heat this year that we've had in other years. But you're seeing the power companies go out of business and shut down, at a moment's notice and leave people hanging. Some areas get hurt worse than others. When you have, large apartment buildings that get hit, it's awful, absolutely awful. But no big deal. Don't worry about it. We're not supposed to be upset about this. The EPA announced, think about this one, guys, that they're going to get rid of 23% of their staff. Are they bloated? Is that government waste at its finest? Now, it's really weird that people get upset over all this stuff. People get upset, over people getting let go. And I get it. But look at every industry. We've seen every single industry get affected by this. Intel, Microsoft, all these big companies that are letting people go. Now the EPA is 23% of their staff, a quarter of their staff is done right now. So you haven't seen anything yet. It's just the beginning of this new new era in efficiency. Let's put it that way. UPS is offering buyouts for their drivers between now and August 31st. Again, letting more people go. And is UPS going out of business? No, they're not. But are they doing less business? Yes. Is Las Vegas off? Substantially right now. Whenever I go there, I talk to the cab drivers, and the first thing they tell me is, it is off, Dan. It's absolutely a ton. I was invited out there for a friend's birthday, and it's crazy. Crazy how off it is. And you can say, well, Dan, it was 100 degrees out. People don't want to go out in the heat. No, everybody wants to go to Vegas. Everybody wants to go party and have a good time. There are some areas there now that are an absolute war zone. That is absolutely unsafe. The Fremont area is a ghetto now. It used to be a fun place to walk around. Place is terrible, but overall, Vegas was off, to say the least. People send money to foreign countries for their family members. And what we have happening between now and the end of the year is you're going to have a new tax on all this stuff. So every dollar that gets sent, you're going to pay a federal tax on this. Well, President Scheinbaum of Vegas is pitching a new card, and the card will make it so that you don't have to pay the fee. Now, will people get this? The Finibian card. Finibian is like a credit card payment system, and Mexico's pushing this because if you don't want to pay these fees, use the Finibian card. They want the money over there. Mexico wants the money sent from family members. And again, how much cash can you bring across the border? Basically, if you bring over 10 grand, you've got a problem. But this is going to allow people to send money. Now, researching this Finibian card, one thing that's funny is it's going to allow people to get multiple cards. So let's say that there's a $5,000 a day max that you could transfer. You just get 20 cards. It's in 100 grand a day. So kind of interesting that they want to do this. But again, more and more of them. Texas flood victims have found a way to be reconnected with their merchandise. And Facebook Marketplace, they've had places set up where, hey, we found this floated by our house and people are collecting it, and they're having drop-off spots. That horrific event, and again, my friend that originally mentioned the Wells Fargo debacle told me about how they're donating, tens of thousands of dollars worth of food and supplies to the victims. So interesting that they're doing this. There's been talk of a rate cut here in July from the Federal Reserve, and then you hear there's not going to be one. For one, I don't know what to believe right now. I don't know what to believe if Jerome Powell's going to be with us any longer. If you're on the private channel, which is iAllegedly Live, you sign up at iAllegedly.tv to check that out. We talked about Jerome Powell and how hated this guy is with Donald Trump. And how do you get rid of a bad employee? Well, you make their life a living hell. And that's what they're doing with Jerome Powell, where he spent $2.5 billion to remodel a building, which is insanity. And again, you can build a stadium to play sports in for less than that. And this guy remodeled a building for $2.5 billion. So again, idiocy. Your money at work, and people have a problem with this. If you're on his side, oh my God, Dan, you guys are just nitpicking and it's terrible. No, this is nonsense, guys. This is absolute insanity. You know how much government waste I want? Zero. I don't want these credit cards. I had a friend of mine on Friday came to me and brought me the story of the credit cards and wanted to know if it was true. And I said, yeah, this is all true. These employees were giving credit cards with no oversight for the government. And they could go out and they could spend money any way they wanted to, paying for things like childcare. Well, I don't know about you, but wouldn't you like to have your golf membership paid for? Okay, I don't even play golf anymore because I don't have time. So No, 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 no. We just want we want this. You know, we want to be able to buy what we want to buy, vacations, everything that they purchased, and there was no oversight. There were hundreds of thousands of those credit cards that were used on a daily basis. You know, so another trucking company, Trucking Association announces another 2,000 jobs lost this week. Hello, great way to start your week. So, Damler Trucking, North America, 2,000 jobs. So, again, guys, it's over and over and over again, and nobody wants to hear about this. When you rent, when you are in a mobile home park, when you are in an association, and you start to see things neglected, like, hey, how come there's no lights at the clubhouse? How come we don't have water at the park? How come the kids, you know, the tennis court's not unlocked? And I'm giving you examples. There's a mobile home park that is in Louisiana and didn't pay the water bill. Oh, you guys owe us $55,000? Well, the entire mobile home park had no water. And they're still trying to figure that out. Well, that is awful, guys. But again, you've got to step forward. You've got to grind on these people. You know, another association, property management company, same thing. Didn't pay their bills, had all these complaints, and now they're starting to see, you know, a situation where people took it as, Marge is a complainer, she's a Karen, and God, poor Karen, what a name. You're a Karen. Well, no, my name is Karen. Anyways, another Louisiana property association that had a problem with not paying their bills and loss of amenities. You know, great story out of the UK talking about America. America's having a problem with its retail stores, and you're going to see another 15,000 stores close. You know, I was blown away about this. You know, it's wild. One thing that we've talked about in the private channel, but not here. Think about this. People that are Chinese can go out from China and buy American real estate. Buy any house you want, okay? Nobody cares. Nobody says anything. And they buy all this property near things like our marine bases and naval bases and all this stuff. It's terrible. And we do nothing. You cannot buy anything in China. Couldn't barely buy lunch there unless you're going to ship it out of the country. The point is that we let this happen. How did everybody get so rich in China? You know, what if the Chinese government is helping these people buy these homes? What if that's the case? Oh, no. What are you asking, Dan? So 15,000 stores going to close. It's not, you know. Two things to finish this video. Think about this. Highest rent in California, Santa Cruz, California. You need over almost $160,000 to afford rent in Santa Cruz, California. Now, it's a nice city. It's near the water. La, 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 lipstick. You know, it's nice, okay? But $160,000 to afford rent. What's a house cost there? Millions of dollars. So there is a value in living in a nice neighborhood. There's a thing called crime that lessens when you go to these nicer places. And they have people that follow rules, generally follow rules. Now, again, society is filled with bad people everywhere. Don't get me wrong. And you get people that get fed up and mistreat the community and things like that. But Santa Cruz is nice. Now, the final thing is, of course, two things. There's one I want to talk about. Was a retired school teacher from here in Orange County, California. Lived in Irvine, California. There's a place called Laguna Woods, which used to be called Leisure World. But Leisure World was turned into Seizure World, we used to call it as kids, because it was where all the old folks lived. And when you get to that age of 55 and over, it's ridiculous. You know, it's not... It's just has the amenities for old people. It's incredibly expensive to live there. There is a retired school teacher who has her pension and says, I'm not going to live in Leisure World anymore. I don't want to rent here, can't afford to buy. So what did she do? She bought a ticket on a cruise ship. Isn't this wild? $129,000, and she's on a permanent cruise ship. That then she gets food, she can have alcohol with meals, and she lives in a cruise ship, a residency cruise ship. And then it costs her another $2,900 a month, every month after month after month, and it'll sail around different places. Final story is people will go into debt for their pets. And a lot of people have gone out and had to have surgery for their dog and cat and put themselves in debt. Now, here's the wild thing. As our medical bills have gone through the roof, so has it gone up for pets. And it's just absolutely outrageous that people are spending all this money to get themselves in debt. Now, it's crazy. Rosie, I mean, I would do anything for Rosie. But people are sitting there and making these decisions and putting themselves in debt. Would you go into debt for your dog or cat? Let me know. And again, every time I mention cats and insurance and stuff like that, I get people that send me wild stories about, oh, we had to have a hip replacement surgery so, Jesse could run. And it was $9,000. I mean, crazy stuff. But again, what would you do for your pet? Would you go into debt for your pet? Is pet insurance worth it? Let us know. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. We're back in the regular schedule. Like I said, tan, rested, and ready. You want to get a hold of me and send me a story? It is hello@iallegedly.com, and I will see you very soon.